and a pleasure to have on our Frankly Speaking Sports Hotline former New York Met catcher, World Series champion, and professional public speaker, Ed Hearn. Ed, how are you doing this morning?
Man, it's another day. The sun's come out, so we're ready to go swinging, buddy.
Okay, Ed, before we get into your career after baseball, I want to first talk a little bit about your career in Major League Baseball. I know you were in the minor leagues for quite a few years, I think at least 8 years, and then in 1986, you become a member of the New York Mets, and Gary Carter, the great Gary Carter, injures his thumb. And now you're starting catcher for the New York Mets. Tell us about that moment and, after all those years of being in the minor league, what did it feel like to finally make it and play in the big leagues?
Well, that was in August of '86, and we had a pretty good lead by then. But, I woke up to the headlines of one of the major newspapers in New York saying, Carter goes down, worst thing that can happen to the Mets. And, okay, well, we'll see. But my attitude was, this is my team now. And, the media wanted to know what I was thinking as you're asking now. And I told them that, look, I can't fill Gary Carter's shoes. I can't be Gary Carter. I can only be Ed Hearn, and I know that if I am reasonable Ed Hearn, we're going to be just fine. And it turned out we ended up going like 11-3 or something during that 2-week stretch, and during the end of that 2-week stretch, my teammates were busting Gary Carter's chops about, hey man, I think you need to rest that thumb a little longer, man.
Now, that group, believe me, that was a wild group of guys that you played with. Everybody knows about, the Gooden, the Strawberry, the Dykstra, the Backman, the Hernandez. To come up, what was it like trying to fit in with those guys?
Well, again, I think that's a mistake when you try to be somebody you're not in anything in life. And I think you be who you are, and you stick with what got you there. And at times it wasn't the most comfortable situation because I did feel a little, not left out, but I wasn't as much a part sometimes. That's just the way I felt because I just didn't participate in some of the activities that were being partaken by that 86 team. And, I often tell people, long-term success requires a strong character foundation. And, when I got traded to the Royals, it was kind of a double-edged sword to me in that I was now a full-time starting catcher. The Royals wanted me to come to Kansas City to handle the young pitching staff that they had in 1985 and won the World Series 2 years earlier than us. A fabulous staff, young staff. And the other side of it, when leaving New York, I thought, man, I could be missing out on a couple of rings in the next 3 or 4 years. Because they were, the Mets were that loaded. But as it turned out, my point is that, I think anybody can have success, but to have long-term, consistent success, it takes a quality approach. You just can't continue to be that kind of group and win long-term. Maybe except for the 27 Yankees, crazy guys, but it's hard. It's hard to turn the switch on and off when you want to feel. I used to tell kids, you got to work hard in the classroom, you got to work hard on the field, you got to work hard when you go home. You can't turn that switch on and off. You're lazy at home, you're lazy at school, you're going to be lazy on the field. Mm-hmm. And the same thing applies to the Mets. You do crazy things off the field, and it's going to trickle onto the field eventually.
Now, after 86, you obviously move on to Kansas City, like you said, and then a previous injury comes back to haunt you with your shoulder. When you found out or had to make that decision, whether it was you, a doctor, whoever, that your career was over in baseball, what was your initial reaction?
Well, I would be lying if I said that I wasn't disappointed. The doctors actually said that I would be coming back. The biggest challenge in that transition for me was that Dr. Frank Job in L.A., it was the first time that he had performed this new procedure that he was using on total reconstructive rotator cuff repairs. And I was the first catcher that he'd done. And he thought that I would be back, within, it was about a year. And I wasn't close to being ready. So it dragged into like a 2-year period, and then 2.5 years. And, by then, the guy had been traded for, basically me and David Cohn. He'd gone on and done some good things. And I think eventually, then we ran into a strike season there in, just when all this was happening. And so we were delayed going to spring training, and the Royals basically said, "Man, you really come back well." And he said, "But they said we had to make decisions before we came to camp." And so they gave my release, and I eventually called them Indians and almost got back to the big leagues. I don't think I ever could have really been a everyday catcher in the big leagues after the injury that I had. But because I could hit and I was smart and I could handle pitching staff, I could have been a player for 8 to 10 years after that. On a backup part-time basis and, pinch hitting and DHing.
Right. Now, your baseball career ends I'm talking to Ed Hearn, former New York Met catcher, World Series champ, and professional public speaker. Your career ends in baseball, and before you know it, where you think getting to the major leagues is your biggest battle up to that point, maybe, in your life, now you find out you're fighting the toughest battle of your life when you're fighting now for your life, basically, with the kidney transplant. For those of our listeners that don't know, why don't you tell them the story about after baseball, about how you basically almost lost your life?
The career ended, and I was in Kansas City, and, I was looking at, I had been asked by 3 different organizations to stay in the game and, go back to the minor leagues and manage and come back up through, and I think I would be real good at that, but I always felt that I had other things to do in life. I had some brains, and so I wanted to explore those opportunities, but before I really could get going, I was diagnosed with 3 very serious health issues, including the need for dialysis and my first transplant within a year and a half after being out of the game. And the side effects of the medications you have to take to keep from the transplant rejecting had lots of side effects. And, it was, I had been from the penthouse to the outhouse in my mind. I had lost a lot. Losing a career is one thing, then when you lose your health, that's a really big deal. And so you throw on top of that these medications, side effects, and man, I spiraled down into a deep depression. And a year and a half after that first transplant, I considered quitting on the game of life. But I wasn't raised to be a quitter, and I have a nurse. I met a Long Island girl who became my wife, and is now my wife of 32 years, and she has nursed me along to the point where, I was able to find what I believe has been my true purpose in life. Yes, baseball was a part of that, and I believe being on a World Series team and getting that experience and getting a little name credibility. But my true purpose, I have found, Larry, has been the perspective that I gained through what I call the outhouse, the penthouse to the outhouse and now back. And it's still a fight. I mean, I still bounce into that outhouse once in a while, unfortunately. But the opportunity to, through this perspective of going through the outhouse, what's in the outhouse is crap. And,
right.
But crap, everything grows in crap. And so if you don't allow the weeds to overtake you, there's person when you face life's challenges. And that's what happened to me is because I had a good foundation, I had a very strong faith, and I had a wonderfully supportive life. The weeds didn't overtake me when I was in the outhouse. But I grew as a person and became somebody that I always wanted to be a good person and be a positive influence as an athlete. But never did I realize the opportunity, what the real plan was for Hearn, and that was to use the combination of being an athlete and losing it all, and coming back and be able to share with people about facing change and challenges and the perspective that it takes to do this. And I would say since, in the early part of my speaking career in the early 90s and mid-90s, it was about, all my speeches were about climbing the mountain to success, paying the price, perseverance, all that stuff, teamwork, leadership. But man, after we hit 9/11, everybody I spoke for, it seemed, from associations to corporate events, everybody, the topics that they wanted out of me was, how do you handle life's curves? Because, America, and like today, with this virus that we're facing, it's tough. Change is hard. And it's one that, it's like they say in New York, Sinatra said it so well, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. And I say, when you're facing life's curves, if you can pick yourself up after swinging and missing, maybe getting knocked down by a buzz fastball up under the chin, if you can get back in that batter box and keep swinging, you're eventually going to get it. And that's really what has happened to me, that I got knocked down, kept getting knocked down with my health, but it just came along like it was meant to be. That it was meant. My life was meant to be more than about baseball.
Right, and Ed's talking about his book, Conquering Life's Curves, which he has a book that's written. And Ed, you talked about keep swinging, which was one of the phrases you were just explaining. The other great phrase that I got, and there's a lot of them, but from that book is you talk about not just keep swinging, but about look outside the self, if I said that correctly.
Yeah.
And I thought it was real interesting. Why don't you explain to the listeners about looking outside, in brief? I know you don't have all day to do that, but those are two of the things, that really hit me was the keep swinging phrase and the look outside the self.
Yeah, well, that came about, actually it began in my mind. 3 nights after my first transplant, I'd have a pity party. We all have pity parties, and I ain't lying, I still have them once in a while. But this midnight shift nurse came in, and she looked at me and said, "What's the matter with you, boy?" She said, "You feel sorry for yourself, boy. You just got the gift of life. Faces like you make me mad, boy. You got to understand. You got something real here." And she began to fill my mind and to help me realize, no, this wasn't a bad thing. She said, "You need to get your butt out of the bed and walk down the hall." And she pointed out a room around the corner. She said, "There's a young man there, there's a big baseball fan, and he ain't going to see next season. But you can go impact that boy's life. You go down there and talk to him. He would love to meet you and his dad. And they're going through some tough times. Well, you need to stop feeling sorry for yourself and you need to other people." In corporate America, we've heard that term, think outside the box. Mm-hmm. And as a speaker, I heard other people talking about this box thing, and I finally come to thinking about, think outside the box. A box is something that's useful. We got to think outside ourselves. We got to think about others and make a difference in other people's lives. And that takes you out of those pity parties. You stop feeling bad for yourself. It's just like speaking. Being a speaker, growing up, if you was in a communications class, whatever, speaking is like the second most feared thing in life after death. And it's why? Because people get in front of an audience and they get all clammed up because they think about themselves. If you think about your audience when you're speaking and what you got to give them, whether it's humor, whether it's educational, whether it's inspirational, and you start thinking about I mean me, then you're going to be great. You're going to be fine. But almost everybody, I mean me. And I don't have have to tell you, but our culture is so I, me. So I just help people understand that once you can think outside of yourself, and you can go out there and do something for somebody else, whether it's from a speaking platform, whether it's listening to someone who's facing challenges, whether it's delivering meals to people that are hungry. Do that, thinking outside yourself, is always going to come back. And, I tell people, I take 30, 35 pills a day, and I've been doing it since 1992. And the best pill I can take is when I can go out there and do something for somebody else. That's my best medicine. And that's what I encourage people to do. And that makes the best teamwork. That makes the best leadership qualities. When a leader is a servant leader, not thinking about themselves and how far up the chain they're going to go and how much money they can make. When you put yourself secondary as a leader, as a servant, and making all the people under you better, that's when you're going to become a great leader. So this is one of the keys to life, Larry, is thinking outside yourself. I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, Ed, let me ask you this, because you were talking about the public speaking and how you affect other people, and you were just leading into actually my next question. For those of you listening, we're talking to Ed Hearn, former New York Met catcher and World Series champion and professional public speaker. You know what you've been through, obviously, in life. That goes without saying. But when, obviously, you can talk to people all day long, and you and I both know some people it's going to go in one ear and out the other ear, and other people it's going to affect in a positive way. What does it feel like when you know that you've spoke to an audience and there's an individual, and I'm sure you hear this, especially later on after you speak, that, this individual, they were thinking about ending it all. They couldn't go on in life. And then you found out that you spoke to them and you inspired them to go on in life.
It don't get any better than that. And because I've done it for so long now, I know that that's just the truth, that there will be at least one person, many, often multiple people, but let's just say it's just one person. That's worth it to me. Mm-hmm. I have a little mantra I found about 10 to 15 years ago. It's because it was a saying that I've never been able to attribute to anybody. That's just an unknown person. I don't know, but I always try to give credit to somebody who's, when I'm quoting someone. But this saying has become my mantra, and it helps. It's so ingrained in my mind, I don't even think about it. I know that if we think outside ourselves, we are going to impact people in a positive way. But here's what the saying says. It goes, anyone can count the seeds in one apple, right? Mm-hmm. But no one can count the apples in just one seed. We just can't do it. We never know how much of an impact doing something for other people is going to have. It can be a tremendous thing that impacts so many people. So our job, in my opinion, when you're a speaker, everybody's got a story, everybody's got experience that other people don't have, and they can learn. We can learn from each other. That's why, in warfare, divide and conquer. That's one of the greatest strategies there are. And we have to do the opposite as human beings, as a country, as families, to stay together and help one another and share these seeds and plant seeds that will grow if they're watered. See, sometimes the seeds are already planted when I come along, and I may just be watering and fertilizing them seeds, maybe pulling a few weeds with somebody or with an audience where their corporate culture is going bad. And so that's the way I approach things, because I've been around enough now. It's like playing in baseball. You just come to know that you're not going to know exactly what's going to happen, but you know that if you do it right, and if you do it not thinking about how much money I'm going to make playing this game, you do it for the team, and in life, if you do it for the team, it's going to come out, and you're going to impact people. And in the end, Larry, you know, there's that one little saying about on the tombstone, there's a date, and then there's a dash, and then there's another date. And that saying, I don't quotes, but it talks about life is all about the dash.
Right. Now, before I ask you the last question and let you go, why don't you let our listeners know where or how they can get your book?
You can get the book, if you would go to bottomoftheninth.org, you'll find an address there, or you can find, my speaking website is down right now, but if you Google Ed Hearn, you can find articles, and you'll run across an email. Folks can email me. The book is not out in bookstores anymore. I have been able to obtain all the rights back now since, you know, the book's been published quite a long time ago, but it's an evergreen book that is written, it was written for my son originally when he was, you know, a year or two old, because I didn't know I was going to be alive when he was a teenager. So, you know, it's a book about baseball and about life, and the things that I want my son to know when he got to the age where he can understand things. And, you know, you can go online, bottomoftheninth.org, edhearn.com/Ed Hearn. There's just go to my YouTube channel, and it'll all lead you back to ed@edhearn.com is my email. So send me an email, and we'll get the folks here through the nonprofit at the bottom of the ninth, and they will make sure that we can get out a copy and signed book to however many people you want. We'll personalize it, and we'll turn it around and get it out to you.
Great. Thank you for letting them know that. Now, before I let you go, Ed, you know, obviously you've been through a lot. And so you've seen life from all different avenues, all different sides of it. We're going through a really rough time. A lot of people obviously are going through a rough time with the coronavirus, COVID-19. And, you know, some of them, you know, don't understand that, you know, even though it's bad, it's not that bad considering what could be. What would be your message as, you know, we're concluding as far as life goes to these individuals going forward?
Well, in our society, in the world, we're facing something we've never before. And I think it's important to remember that we need to do this together. I mean, we need to all do the same thing. We need to do the social distancing, thinking about others. You know, social distancing isn't thinking about yourself. It's thinking about other people, high-risk people. But, you know, in life, we're all going to face things all the time coming up that are going to be different than what we're accustomed to. And one of the most powerful and most important attributes that we can have as individuals is the ability to make adjustments in life. Life is a constant moving target with ups and downs. And if you have the ability to adjust, then you can survive. If you do it together as a team, you know, rely on one another. Don't allow something like this to divide and beat us. We have to be a team together, thinking outside of ourselves and realizing that only in that way are we going to be able to beat the ups and downs of life together as a team, thinking outside yourself, and always pull yourself to the bootstraps. And, you know, we're going to swing and miss. People are going to miss projections on this coronavirus. And stop arguing about stuff that we can't control. Keep getting up and swinging and doing what we can do to help the team, help our families, help our communities, help our country, and help the world overcome this virus.
Ed, I want to thank you so much for allowing me the time to speak to you today on our show.
Well, I thank you, Larry. You continue to provide guests. I've heard some of your podcasts, and I appreciate what you're doing. that you're giving some really good folks the opportunity to come out on your show and share with others, and that's being a team player. So keep swinging, buddy.
All right, thank you, sir. Best of luck to you.
Thanks, sir. Take care, buddy.
You do. That was former New York Met catcher and World Series champion and public speaker Ed Hearn.